So where are we, Aditi?
We're on verse 54 of chapter 18.
And I'm having a little difficulty hearing you. Can you get a little closer to your microphone?
Sure. Is this better?
Hope so. We'll find out.
Okay. Shrotriyam devatam tirtham ajnanam bhupatim priyam drishtavasam pujyathirasya na kapi hridi vasana. Whether he is honoring a Vedic scholar, the gods, or the holy places, or seeing a woman, a king, or a beloved one, not a bit of desire ever springs in the heart of the wise one.
So, what happens when the mind can revel in the self, can abide in the self? I've shared with you what I call the ruthless rule of the mind, that the mind will return to the experience that's given it the greatest joy. And thank God, reveling in the self is the most beloved. So the woman or man of knowledge doesn't refrain from attachment to the world out of some willpower. Oh, I'm going to be very austere and not do that. First of all, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Krishna in Gita says the person who gets rid of the objects of desire but allows the desire to remain behind is verily a hypocrite. But then he goes on to say, but his desire leaves him upon seeing the Supreme. So we are not healed by what we turn from, but by what we turn to. But when the mind can abide effortlessly in the self, then the world of name and form, it's seen. But the expression I use, trinkets and baubles. Trinkets and baubles. They look pretty, the objects of the senses, but no inherent value. Why? The world of the senses is not bad, and it's not good. It's shunyata. It's absolutely void. The only bliss we ever experience is the self. I was going through the section in v54 last night with a student on the Anandamaya Kosha, which is the subtlest part of the sheaths. The Anandamaya Kosha, the bliss sheath. It's what everyone experiences when the mind comes in contact with an object of desire, where you get a kiss of the bliss of Brahman. How much you experience it is a result of punya, merits accrued in other lifetimes. Some people, their lives are just crappy all the time. They never have any joy. Other people, the world is a rich and wonderful place. But the yogi has a completely different experience. The foolish person, the object of desire is where all the joy is, and I go after it. When desire and object of desire become one, oh yeah, that's where all the bliss is. And we develop an attachment, an addictive relationship with the world. Be it spiritual kinds of attachments. Oh, I hung out with this guru and that guru, and I studied all these scriptures. Or I was on Tinder or Grindr all night last night. Doesn't matter. If the mind cannot revel in the self, it's going to go after the world. No blame. So this is why it's important to continue to cultivate samadhi. Now, in the end, we can't be attached to that either. But you can't give up something you don't have. The value of samadhi is that it easily pulls the mind out of the world. And you can see it. There are people I've spoken with who have a great intellectual understanding of this work, but no samadhi. And sure enough, you can feel it. They're hungering for approval, for attention, for money, for status, all that kind of stuff. It still grabs their minds. Or finding the right person. But you can feel it in the mind of a woman or a man of wisdom. The world has no grab anymore. Krishna in Gita says, what is day to the yogi is night to the other people of the world. And what is day to other people is night for the yogi. Doesn't mean the yogi has problems with light perception. It means the yogi has a different playground. This is what the Master Jesus meant when he said, I have overcome the world. The world no longer has any power. My kingdom is not of this world. I am in the world, but not of it. Any thoughts about this? Next verse.
Mrityeha putraha galatresh dohitresh chapi gotrajeha vihasya dhikrito yogi nayati vikritam manak. The liberated is not at all perturbed, even when scoffed and abused by his servants, sons, wives, daughters, sons, and other relations.
So it's not only objects, but it's relational things as well. The woman or the man of wisdom is not at all affected by what other people think and feel about them. It's not concerned. Not concerned. Letting everything just pass through. They not only don't believe their own mind, but they don't believe anybody else's either. Next verse. You can do whatever you wish.
Santushtopi na santushtaha kinnopi na cha khidyate. Tasyashcharya dasham tam tam dash tam tadrisha eva janate. Though delighted, he is not delighted. Though afflicted, he is not afflicted. Only those who are like him understand this stupendous state.
So the front part of the mind, the surface part of the mind, may be seen to be interacting with the world just like anybody else. Now, I used to have difficulty in my early days with Swamiji because it seemed like he was reacting positively and negatively to circumstances. He liked to drive in fast cars. He liked South Indian food. If people were late, he would get annoyed. But if you had the capacity to tune up to him, you could see, oh, this was just on the surface part of the mind. Inside, just empty, empty, empty. So, for you and me, it's of no value to try to psych out other people, to form opinions about this teacher or that teacher. Only one person of knowledge can recognize another. For you and me, we go where we're fed. If it isn't working anymore, go find another teacher. The man or woman of realization is out of control. Fearless. Ultimately, they have no concern about the approval of other people. None whatsoever. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Kartavya teva sansaro natam pashyanti suryaha shunyakara nirakara nirvikara niramayaha. The sense of duty indeed is the mundane world. This is not acknowledged by the wise one who has realized himself as the all-pervading, formless, immutable, untainted self.
So I missed a word. The sense of duty is what?
Indeed, it is the mundane world.
Yes. The word he's using here is kartavya, obligatory action, sense of duty meaning I need to do this. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if I don't do this, terrible things will happen. So the person of steady wisdom has none of that. No more obligatory actions. None. There was a very, very influential teacher in New York, a fellow by the name of Rudrananda, used to go by Rudy. He was a Swami, but he owned property and he had an antique store. Wait a minute, if you're a sannyasi, you're not supposed to be doing business and owning stuff. A man of wisdom, no rules. Now, for you and me, when we see a man or woman who claims to be a guru and they're engaged in harmful behavior to other people, do not rationalize their bad behavior by saying, oh, they're a man or woman of knowledge. It's all teaching, blah, 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 blah. Horseshit. I always say you watch out for three things. Do they want to go to bed with you? Do they want your money? Do they want to micromanage your life? I don't care how much juice or shakti you feel around that. Be very careful. I would go the other direction. A real teacher has no desires. They want only your and my liberation. That's the joy. But how they live, who's to say? Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Akurvanapi sankshobhat vyagraha sarvatra murhati kurvanapi tu krityani kushalo hi nirakulaha. The fool, even in inaction, is ever agitated by his commotion within. But the adept, or the wise, even when performing his duties, indeed is unperturbed.
Yes. So if we're identified, even when we're sitting still between our ears, I mean, what did they think of me? How am I doing? Am I okay? But for the person of steady wisdom, even if engaged in activity in the world, coolness of mind, shitala. Now, we've got to be very careful about one thing. Some of us think that our interaction with the teacher is always going to be nicey nice. Probably not. The teacher doesn't premeditate his or her interactions, but frequently they push our buttons. So if I get agitated and I get a button pushed, yes, why? I'm the one with the attachment. I'm the one with the identification. So around Swamiji, I would see frequently people who had attachments. He'd just poke. Now, he largely would poke through humor, through mocking us. He was an incredible, I don't know what the word is. He would not impersonate. That's not the word.
Perry?
Parody, yeah. He'd have everybody laughing, but everybody would be turning red in the face because they saw themselves. And as soon as we let go, he'd stop poking. Now, I frankly don't do much of that. I think life does a pretty good job of it without my stepping in. But I will frequently draw a student's attention to where life is poking. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Sukhamaste sukham shete, sukhamayati yati cha, sukham bhakti sukham bhurte, vyavahare pi shantadhi. Even in practical affairs of life, the wise one of peaceful mind sits happily, sleeps happily, moves happily, speaks happily, and eats happily.
Why? There are two things self-realization gives us, very simple things. The first I call existential freedom. Nothing ever touches you. You can't be improved, you can't be diminished. You do not need to be defended or protected. I was talking with a student this morning, and he's in Indiana, and he's just gone through a liver transplant, which was pretty harrowing. He had chronic hepatitis C for decades and got a liver transplant. But now they've found cancer in the bile ducts. And, you know, some freak out. But what we talked about this morning, when you were a child, go look at a photo of yourself as a 10-year-old. That child is dead. Look at yourself as a 20-year-old. That body is gone. And 30 and 40. He happens to be in his 60s. So if it's time to leave this mortal coil, as Shakespeare calls it, is soon, even dying is safe. I like to use this image. So you go to the beauty salon or the barber shop to get your hair cut. Right now, it's my hair. I am connected to it. But the barber goes snip, 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 snip. The hair falls to the bottom on the floor. You're not on the floor looking up going, oh, I'm cut off, I'm cut off. No. You look down and go, my God, it's gotten gray. So when the physical body drops off, even before realization, Doesn't touch the subtle body. You're going to be fine. Nothing ever touches you. The second thing that realization gives us, we finally know where happiness is. Happiness is my self-nature. Let the mind come home to the self. Let go, let go, let go. Now, let's say all the Vedanta teaching and all the scriptures are completely wrong. That the materialists are right. You're born, you live through your life, and you die, and lights out. If that be true, how do you maximize the quality of your life for your 70, 80, 90 years? It still comes down to detachment and abidance in our self-nature. It maximizes the joy of living in the moment. The opposite of that, how am I doing? Am I okay? What do they think of me? I need to control and plan and try to secure everything. It's an exhausting way to live. We think, oh, look at those children. They're so free and so natural. You can have it. No one's making you live that the way you are. Next verse.
Swabhavadasya naivarti lokavad vyavaharinaha maharada ivakshobhyo gataklesha sushobhate. One who, due to his inner disposition, even when engaged in practical affairs of life, does not have any distress, like ordinary people have. He remains unagitated like a vast lake, with all his sorrows extinguished. He indeed shines.
Yeah. And wouldn't it be cool if you could move through life and you weren't concerned about whether you were the best or good enough or pretty enough or handsome enough or rich enough? That you could just be as you are. And that was enough. News for you, it is. It is. The mark of the man of wisdom is he has no agenda. He isn't trying to prove anything to anybody anymore. He's comfortable in his own skin. You hear that term. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Nirvrittirapi mudhasya pravrittirupajayate pravrittirapi dhirasya nivritti phalabhagini. With the fool, even withdrawal or inaction becomes action. With the wise, even action results in the fruit of withdrawal or inaction.
Yes. So again, Krishna in Gita speaks at length on what is actionless in the midst of action and what is action in the midst of actionlessness. Yourself, the self, is always without action. And the equipment is always in action. Even sitting still is an action. A person of steady wisdom has given up concern because there's no need or effort to protect this phony self. This, one of my favorite expressions for the ego, ch18. Chaya means like a reflection or a shadow. It's a phony self. It's a fake self. And that's why it's so hard to be okay with it, because it's insubstantial. But behind that is something very real, which is already. Next one.
Parigraheshu vairagyam prayo mudhasya drishyate dehe vigalita shasya kwa raga kwa viragata. The fool often shows aversion to his possessions. Where is attachment and where is aversion for him whose love for the body has vanished?
Yes. So the seeker who's still in ignorance is afraid of the world. Ooh, nasty old world. Don't want to get involved with this. I can't enjoy that. Blah, 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 blah. And it is of value to go through a period where we break the addictive sense of the mind. This is what in Gita Krishna calls yoga arudha, attaining to mounting the steed of the mind. We're in control. We're no longer tyrannized by the indulgent tendencies of mind. But the objects of the senses are not inherently bad or good. They're void. So your prarabdha will put you where you need to be. Dance through life. Let the world bring you your allotted dose of joys and sorrows. Don't get involved with them. Any thoughts on this? what should I do with my life, with my time? Do what's in front of you. Deep meditation. What's the meaning of my life, God? What's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And then you get the message, have you done the dishes yet? Did you make your bed? Do what's in front of us. Next verse.
Bhavana bhavana sakta drishtirmudhasya sarvada bhavya bhavanaya satu swasthasya drishtirupini. The view of the fool is always attached to ideation and non-ideation. But the view of one established in the self, though engaged in the ideation of objects, is of the nature of non-ideation.
So, should we have ideas about things? We're taught at one level to give up our thoughts of the past, projections into the future. No, no, no. Keep your mind clean and clear, stay in the now. But you don't want to be attached to that either in the end. Now, again, you can't renounce anything you don't have. Be able to be free from ideation, from sankalpa. Now, give that up. There's nothing inherently wrong with a memory. There's nothing inherently wrong in planning a vacation. But it's all, in the end, just lila, just play, just sport. Next one.
Sarvarambheshu nishkamo yashvareda balavanmunihi na nalepastasya shuddhasya kriyamanepi karmani. The wise one who has no motive in any of his actions moves like a child and is pure, has no attachments even in the action that is being done by him.
Yeah. So, what causes the person of wisdom to move through the world? The force of the past and the desires of other people. And he has no attachment to the outcome. He may be seen to be acting like anybody else. But for you and me, our job is stay identified with that chidakasha, that space of consciousness. Forget the world. Forget the body's interactions in the world. Just Do what's in front of you. Give up concern for the whole soap opera that so many people live. No, Jim, he said, she said, and then I don't know whether I should talk with him or I don't know whether I should talk with her. And oh, and then and all these people, you know, it's like high school. It's like a soap opera on TV. It's nonsense. Let it go. And in the now, if you must have a plan, just try not to be an asshole. That goes a long way. We don't need to be involved in other people's drama. Any thoughts on this?
Jim, I want to ask a quick question.
Please, loud enough so they can hear.
You said the personal wisdom eventually, not eventually, but they are driven by other people's desires and their past, right? Does the past also include their preferences? Because they still have preferences, right? But it's just they're not desires.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to probably go to Whole Foods this afternoon and get some garbanzo beans and try Santosh's recipe for chole. Maybe. Who knows what might happen between now and then? You know? Preference.
Okay. Thanks.
Got to pay the rent on the 1st, which is next Monday. I'll probably pay it on Monday. Man. My computer screws up and somehow I can't make the transfer. I'll deal with it if it happens. There's some movie which had a line that says, "Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff." Oh. Wear your life like a loose garment. Take it easy. Is that useful?
Very useful. Thank you, Jim.
Next one.
Sa eva dhanya atmagyah sarvabhaveshu yah samaha pashyan shrinavan sprishan jigran ashnan nistarshamaнаsaha. Blessed indeed is that knower of the self who, with his mind free from thirst, even though seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, or eating, remains the same under all conditions.
Yes. So just like for you and me, we don't ever have the crazy thought that as I'm walking to the store, I'm going to turn into a cow or a camel or a rhinoceros. effortlessly, you know you have a human body. So also for the woman of wisdom, effortlessly, she knows she is that space of consciousness and nothing ever touches her. For you and me, we have to do jnana abhyasa, practice, not knowledge. But when we're rooted, it's natural. It's obvious. It's effortless. It's knowledge. It's not effort. Next one.
Kwa sansara, kwa chabhasa, kwa santhyam, kwa cha sadhanam, akashasyeva dhirasya, nirvikalpasya sarvada. Where is the world and where is the ego? Where is the end and where are the means for the wise one, who is ever changeless like the universal space?
So the idea here is seen but not real. BART tracks joining in the distance, seen but not real. Container ship falling off the edge of the world at the horizon, seen but not real. The blue bowl of the sky, seen but not real. So for the woman of wisdom, world of name and form, the body, mind, and intellect, seen but not real. Good deed, bad deed, virtuous deed, vicious deed. Empty mind, thinking mind, not real. No longer any concern about it. Now, there's a great paradox. Swamiji always used to say the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. At a very early level, we're dealing with thought content, replacing our negative thinking with positive thinking. But at some point, we get out of the mind. We quit believing the mind. All of a sudden, it just starts to settle down on its own. Next one.
Sajatyartha sannyasi pun swarasa vigraha akriti mona vichanne samadhirasya vartate. Hallelujah to him who has renounced all desires, who is the embodiment of perfect bliss, which is his own nature, and who is spontaneously absorbed in the unlimited space.
I'm not sure that I would translate. Did he say swaha? What was the word he used to translate as hallelujah?
Jayati.
Jayati, which means victory. Victory. But the idea here is it is the culmination of our journey as a human being. culmination of being a human being. The river has flowed and merged with the ocean. It's not a river anymore. The journey of this individual jiva, the sense of individuality, going through many, many different incarnations and lives. Then all of a sudden in this mind you realize, oh, it was all like a very long, very vivid dream. Everything shifts. Is that the end of the chapter?
No, there's quite a bit more.
All right, going on.
Bahunatra kimuktena gyatatatvo mahashayaha bhoga moksha nirakankshi sada sarvatra nirasaha. In short, here there is no need to say more. The great souled one who has realized the truth is free from desire for sense enjoyments and for spiritual liberation. He is devoid of all passions in all places and at all times.
So in the end, even concerns about whether or not one is liberated or not liberated, all that stuff just falls away. No personal sense of self anymore. Now, in the beginning and intermediate phases of our practice, we hang on to the mumukshu, the one with the burning desire for liberation. Swamiji used to say, we sublimate our worldly desires into our desire for liberation. People who study the scripture like this too soon, they have what seems very logical. Well, the desire for liberation is the desire. I thought we were supposed to give up all desires, so I'm going to give up my desire for liberation. Yeah, but if you do that too soon, what you end up is stuck with all your misery. Oh, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. Doesn't work. It's foolishness. So be a yogi, be a mumukshu until you've burned up all the other desires. Now let go of even that. The ego does not arrive at a state where it says, I'm here now, I'm powerful, I'm realized, I got it. Who is it who thinks they have all that? The fool. Don't try to be a realized person. Know that you are Brahman. Very different. Thoughts on this?
Could you say a little bit more about sublimating our worldly desires into spiritual?
Okay, the example I use is, say you're a college kid and you've got a paper due on Monday, and you want to do really well in that class, and all your friends come by your dorm room and say, hey, we're going out for pizza and beer, you want to come with us? And you want to go with your friends. But you think, no, I would rather do well in this class, and I need to get on this paper. So you say to your friends, oh, I'd really like to go, but I need to do my paper. So you let go of the lesser desire for the greater desire. So also, as we're making our way through life, desires which are contrary to the Dharma will approach us. And we think it through. No, I'm just not going to do that. Someone gives you a box of C's chocolates. And what you really want to do is eat the whole box in about 10, 15 minutes. No, it's going to make me sick. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put the lid on the box, have one, put the rest in the kitchen so I don't get tempted. That's sublimation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think in psychology, they may define it a bit differently. Do they?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. It's not a term I use frequently because I'm not schooled in that kind of stuff. But we let go of lesser desires for something greater. The value of mumukshutva is we subordinate our lesser desires for the desire for liberation. But in the end, we let go of that as well. All right, next verse.
Jim, actually, I have a question.
Sure.
My question is around an observation that I see sometimes. So a lot of times people desire this liberation because then you get rid of all your suffering, right? You actually achieve real peace, right? And so a lot of times what drives people to have this liberation, we chatted about this earlier, is they've gone through some sort of suffering in their life. And so they want to get out of suffering. That's why they're driven to the spiritual path. At the same time, I feel like I have a lot of friends who, you know, maybe had a pretty good childhood, are married, have kids, and they're generally pretty happy with their lives. You know, we have deep conversations, so I'm not trying to, compare my insides to their outsides, but they seem quite at peace. You know, they're well-just, they even kill people. They're not aiming for liberation the way that we think about liberation with the spiritual path, but they're quite at peace with themselves, with other people. They're living good lives. Like, why? Like, they seem to have a peace that a lot of times people I feel like are on the spiritual path don't have at all, So I guess I'm just wondering why that is and what is the paradox here? Do you know what I mean?
Excellent question. Did you all get her question? And what I'm going to use is a paradigm that comes from Tibetan Buddhism. So in Tibetan Buddhism, we have the realm of the gods, the human realm, and the realm of the hungry ghosts. Liberation, enlightenment, only happens in the human realm. So the people that you're talking about are in what we call the realm of the gods. Life works for them. Mm-hmm. That is the result of punya, of virtuous actions done in prior lives. Mm. The problem, though, is that it's temporary. So they get married, have kids, but people will die, they will get sick, they will die. Now, what happens is if you hang out in the realm of the gods, as your punya runs out, because it's all based on finite energy, you can dip down into the realm of the hungry ghosts. That used to work for me. Let me work at it some more. Let me try harder. Let me try harder. And you know, the hungry ghosts eat but are never fulfilled. So there you are in the realm of the gods, and everything's working for you, and you're have a good job at Facebook or Google or something like that, and all your friends are doing cocaine. We just do it recreationally on the weekends. We do a little bump. No problem. Except what happens? Keep wanting more, more. So you move from the realm of the gods to the realm of the hungry ghosts.
And this is in the same lifetime you're talking about. This is not
It can be. It can be over several lifetimes.
I see. So eventually we all end up in the middle realm of the human.
We
and
go
that's the path
through
out.
all three. What's unique about the human is you ask the question, is this all there is? Now, here's an interesting thing about the realm of the gods. Most of us continue in the realm of the gods as long as we can hold out the illusion that getting what I want will make me happy. Let me tell you a true story. So I have a very dear friend. I've known him for 20 some years. When I met him, he was a pizza driver. And he really wanted to get a college education, to get a career. So he goes to City College, falls in love with communication, gets his AA, goes on to San Francisco State, gets a bachelor's degree in communication, goes on from there, gets a master's degree in communication, goes back to City College, he's teaching speech classes. He's arrived. But after a while, it no longer was the rush. So he goes to USF and he gets a doctorate in EDD, in information stuff. I mean, and then he realizes that at 52, the only way he's going to get a tenure track position is to leave the Bay Area. He's married. He and his husband have a condo. All his friends are here. He doesn't want to leave the Bay Area. So all of a sudden, he's faced with the reality. I thought getting the doctorate would just blow my mind. All this work. And nothing's any different.
Yeah, that's a great example.
So we call them midlife crises. Now, how old are you?
37.
But I bet most of your friends are your age, maybe a little younger, maybe a little bit older. But oftentimes 40, 45, 50, people hit what we now call a midlife crisis. I've had all this ambition and I wanted to climb up the corporate ladder and I have status and it doesn't do it for me. And then what do? You get rid of the wife and get a trophy wife and a red sports car, thinking that's going to help. Or if you're a woman, you find a toy boy. So we move from the realm of the gods because it's temporary. Sometimes we stop at the human world, what's it all about? But frequently we descend to the realm of hungry ghosts, where we're addicted. I want more. I want to fix it. I want more stuff. I want more ambition. I want more this.
But the way out is only typically through the human level, right? The other
Human
two
level
levels.
is where we have manana. We can think about things. So your friends who are very successful in life and taking vacations, ski trips to Switzerland, and working on buying their second home in Tahoe and stuff like that, they never think about yoga.
Exactly. But they seem very much at peace and happy in their lives.
It will be temporary. It always is.
I see. That's good to know, Jim. That's very helpful.
And it may be something like all of a sudden their kid turns out to be a drug addict, or their mother gets cancer.
You can't stay in that realm forever, basically. Is the thing. I see.
Nobody does.
Eventually, everything goes back to yoga or some form of the spiritual path.
Well, I would look at our former president. At one point, he was the most powerful man in the world. He was so powerful, he was above the law. But it started to slip. So he went from realm of the gods to hungry ghosts.
Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think he was ever in the realm of the gods. I think he was just a hungry ghost thinking he was in the realm of the gods.
Well, the point being
Yes.
is everything comes back, Carmen.
Okay.
Everything.
But is it ever possible that somebody has such good punya that it continues such a virtuous cycle that eventually they just get to liberation? It's not ever possible.
Well, we call those people the gods. So Brahma
I see.
runs the universe.
But but humans typically never are able to do that.
Why don't you ask them?
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Because to me, the way that I understand what you're saying is, it's not like the external circumstances decide whether or not you're in the land of the hungry ghost, because you can still have terrible external circumstances but still have peace in the realm of the gods if your punya is strong enough, right? But I think for at least
Well, I'm not sure you ever get real peace.
I see. Okay.
Very few people have santosha,
Yeah, I see.
which
Real
is
contentment.
content.
Yeah, that's fair. They're mostly driven by external circumstances, basically.
Yes.
And then
And I would suggest that all your friends who have all this stuff and seem to be at peace still have a lot of ambition. But the point is, you are not they. You only have your karma, your life, your punya, your papa, your kleshas, your afflictions.
Yep. Sure.
It's your life. You can't exchange your life for someone else's.
Yep. Makes sense.
Very good question. Does anybody else out there in Zoom land have anything they want to add to the conversation or comment?
No, Jim, everything is wonderful.
All right, we'll end here then. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat. Thank you all.